Hey everyone, Retire on Dividends here. It's time for another update to the Dry series. If you're new to this series or new to the channel, the Dry series is simple. It's basically us comparing a bunch of funds that are similar, against their indexes or their underlying. So for the most part, this is Defiance funds versus Roundhill funds. And then there's some Roundhill versus YieldMax and some YieldMax versus YieldMax. So anyway, let's get to it. So the first tab that I'm showing you here, this compares the Nasdaq to QQQY to QDTE. The Nasdaq obviously is the Nasdaq, right? It's its own little index. And then QQQY, they sell puts on the Nasdaq. And then QDTE sells calls on the Nasdaq. And they both do daily options. Roundhill, for the most part, they're a little different in that they do 0 DTE. So QDTE, they sell calls in the morning and they close them before the market closes. They also hold a long position, right? They buy a call with a long-term expiration date. And that means, they track the movement essentially of the Nasdaq, especially after hours, when the options contract expires that they're doing, the 0 DTE options contract. Because obviously, if they're closing it before the market closes, then all they have open during the market hours and during weekends is that long call exposure of the Nasdaq. So if there is upside exposure or downside exposure of the Nasdaq, that will be reflected in QDTE. For QQQY, again, which is Defiance, they sell puts with 1 DTE. They now have the ability to do 0 DTE. However, I haven't seen them do that yet. Maybe they do. Again, I'm not tracking it day in and day out. You guys would know better than me. But all they do essentially is sell puts, and they don't have a long position of the Nasdaq. All right, that being said, let's just get to it. So here we go. 4 trading days last week, because Monday was a stock market holiday, Martin Luther King Day. Stock market was not open. But Monday, we're showing that the Nasdaq went up 0.58%. QQQY went up 0.33%. However, QDTE went up more. It went up 0.72%. So QDTE for the win. It beat QQQY and it beat the Nasdaq. So good job. Up next is the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq went up 1.33%. That would be, the first day was the Tuesday, not Monday. I think I said Monday. So on Wednesday, the Nasdaq went up 1.33%. Big up day. So typically on big up days, Roundhill going to win. And let's see. QQQY went up 0.69%, which is decent. However, QDTE went up 1.45%. So 2 days in a row, QDTE beat QQQY and the index. All right, now, next day, Thursday, the Nasdaq went up 0.22%, QQQY went up 0.19%, and QDTE actually went down 0.03%. So QQQY took the win that day. And then on Friday, the Nasdaq went down 0.58%. QQQY went down as well, but it went down a little less, 0.49%. And QDTE went down a little more at 0.66%. So QQQY for the win on the last 2 days. So it's a tie for the week. QDTE 2 wins and QQQY 2 wins as well. Up next, we compare the S&P 500 versus WDTE, which is Defiance, and XDTE, which is Roundhill. Again, same rules apply. I explained how the funds work on the other one. So let's just get to it. S&P 500 on the Tuesday, it went up 0.88%. WDTE captured 0.79%. That's pretty good. XDTE captured 0.79% as well. So it was, looks like a tie. However, if we go out further fractions, WDTE did get the win. All right, who's up next? Well, we got Wednesday. Wednesday's up next. Wednesday, the S&P went up 0.61%. WDTE went up 0.46%. And XDTE went up 0.69%. So XDTE for the win. Thursday, the S&P went up 0.53%. WDTE beat the S&P, went up 0.63%. And XDTE went up 0.2%. So WDTE for the win. And then on Friday, the S&P 500 went down 0.29%. WDTE went down 0.3%, but XDTE went down a little more went down 0.41%. So WDTE for the win again. So WDTE has 3 wins this week, and XDTE has 1. So WDTE took the win. All right, last but not least, well, this is not last, but last for the Defiance versus Roundhill, is the Russell. Russell on Tuesday, big update. Russell went up 1.85%. IWMY, look at that. IWMY went up 2.12%. RDTE went up 1.68%. So IWMY with the win. Wednesday, the Russell went down 0.61%. IWMY went down 0.68%. And RDTE went down 0.53%. So RDTE for the win. Thursday, the Russell went up 0.47%. IWMY captured 0.36% of that. And RDTE captured only 0.12% of that. So IWMY for the win on Thursday. And then on Friday, the Russell went down 0.3%. IWMY went down, but not a lot. It went down 0.07%. And RDTE went down 0.29%. So IWMY for the win. And guess what? IWMY, three wins versus RDTE's 1. So Defiance with the edge this week overall. Obviously, they won on the last 2. I think the first one we said was a tie. All right, so up next, we will now compare YMAX versus YMAG. Why? Because it's fun. All right, on Tuesday, YMAX went up 0.66%. YMAG went up 0.59%. So YMAX for the win. Wednesday, YMAX went up 0.89%. YMAG went up 0.85%. YMAX for the win. Thursday, YMAX went up 0.6%. YMAG went down 0.1%. YMAX for the win. 3 in a row. Could it be a sweep? Let's see. Friday, YMAX went down 0.41%. And YMAG went down 0.05%. So, it's not a sweep because YMAG took the Friday. So, that being said, YMAX still had the overall win, 3 wins versus YMAG's 1. Now we will compare YBTC, which is a Roundhill fund, versus YBIT, which is a YieldMax fund. And we compare that to the underlying, which is IBIT. All right, so IBIT on Tuesday went up, big update, 1.34%. YBIT went up 1.04%, and YBTC went up 2.52%. Look at that. Very nice. YBTC with a really good win. All right, Wednesday, IBIT went down 1.72%. YBIT went down 0.07%, and YBTC went down 1.64%. So YBIT for the win on that day. Thursday, IBIT went down 0.99%. YBIT went down 1.48%, and then YBTC went down 1.09%. So YBTC for the win. And then we have Friday, another update. IBIT showing that it went up 1.55%. Thought crypto sold off that day. Maybe not IBIT. I don't know. Well, whatever. IBIT tracks Bitcoin. So Bitcoin overall maybe went up Friday. I don't know. But whatever, YBIT went up 1.27%, and YBTC, another freaking good day, man. YBTC went up 2.56%. So YBTC for the win. And YBTC, 3 wins versus YBIT's 1 win. So good job, YBTC. All right, up next is the yield war, where we compare the various yields for the week. And we see, we annualize whatever they paid, and we see which fund has the best yield. So we'll just go in order. Well, first we'll do the top 3, and then we'll just spit out the other yields. All right, YBIT is number 1 with a 75% yield. YMAX is number 2 with a 52% yield. And IWMY is number 3 with a 51% yield. All the others, QQQY shows 38% yield. QDTE, 31% yield. WDTE, 18% yield. XDTE, 21% yield. RDTE, 25% yield. YMAG, 27% yield, and YBTC, 38% yield. All right, let's move on to the NAV war. All right, who's going to win the NAV war? All right, so again, we'll cover the top three, and then we'll just mention what all the other ones are. In first place, YBTC, no surprise there, went up 2.35%. What a week for YBTC. In second place, it's a tie. So this is second and third place technically. S&P 500, 1.74%. Hey, guess who tied the S&P? IWMY. Look at that. IWMY went up 1.74%. That's just NAV appreciation. Talk about a turnaround, man. IWMY, sometimes, man, it can surprise you. All right, now we'll just cover some of the others. The Nasdaq for the week, it went up 1.55%. QQQY went up 0.72%. QDTE went up 1.48%. We talked about the S&P. It went up 1.74%. WDTE captured 1.58% of that. XDTE captured 1.27% of that. The Russell for the week, it went up 1.41%. IWMY beat the Russell. It went up 1.74%. We spoke of that. RDTE did not beat the Russell. It went down 0.98%. YMAX went up 1.73%. God, that's like it's a close fourth overall. YMAG went up 1.28%. IBIT went up 0.17%. YBIT went up 0.76%. And we talked about YBTC with the big week. It went up 2.35%. All right, total return. All right, this is, again, what is this tab? This basically just looks at how much these funds were worth on October 4th when I started tracking these up until today. Today is, of course, reflecting the last market close price, which would have been the Friday, January 24th date price. And then it also adds in any distributions paid, from inceptions, or no, not from inceptions, from 10/4. And then it calculates the total return. Again, this does not do drip. It's just basic, distributions plus capital appreciation or depreciation. So QQQY has a negative 0.13% total return. QDTE has a positive 7.56% total return. And the Nasdaq has a positive 8.68% total return. So QDTE clearly has done better than QQY, but it does fall short to the Nasdaq. Up next, WDTE total return. They've gone up 2.27%. XDTE has gone up 5.33%. And the S&P went up 6.09%. So XDTE defeated WDTE, but we kind of knew that, but it also fell short of the S&P index. So there's two for the indexes. And then we have the Russell. All right, the Russell funds. IWMY total return, 2.35%. They're coming back, man. They were worse. Now they're coming back. But still, their total return, this is from 10/4, is up 2.35%. RDTE, basically more than double at 5.16%. And the Russell is up 4.29%. So RDTE did beat IWMY, but it also beat the Russell. So there's no sweep for the indexes. All right, now we'll look at YMAX versus YMAG versus the MAGs. The MAGs, total return 19%. YMAG is the comparison to the MAGs. YMAG's total return is 12.85%. So the MAGs, which is the index basically for YMAG, the index did beat YMAG. Now YMAX total return is up 13.01%. I don't have an index for YMAX because there's all different degenerate funds in there, so we can't really compare it to anything per se. And then we have YBIT, YBTC, and IBIT. So IBIT, it's pretty much whooping everyone's ass. It's up 68% total return. YBTC is not far behind. They're up 42.21% total return. And then YBIT, it's not bad either. It's up 34.79% total return. So good job. Good job to all. All right, then we have the OM war. What is the OM war? It's the assets. I need a sip of water. The assets under management. So what do? we basically look at and see what the change in outstanding shares were week to week. If you guys care, of course, some of you may not. But it is interesting to see if what funds are growing versus what funds aren't. And the trend is Defiance funds are not growing and Roundhill funds are. YieldMax, of course, is always growing, so that's no shocker there. All right, so for this week, QQQY outstanding shares went down 150,000. QDTE outstanding shares went up 780,000. WDTE reflects no change, and XDTE reflects an increase of 410,000. IWMY reflects no change, and RDTE reflects an increase of 190,000. YMAX reflects an increase of 550,000 outstanding shares. YMAG, no change. YBIT reflects an increase of 675,000, and YBTC reflects an increase of 90,000. Now, if you look at the net asset change based on the value, QDTE had the best week, showing an increase of 37.9 mil. In second place would be XDTE with an increase of 23.7 mil. So Roundhill doing very well in the income department. Obviously, they charge, the 1.99% expense ratio of that total net asset value per year. And then we have the final tab, the finals. What is the average yield and what is the total NAV? Total NAV added up. So QQQY's average yield is 42.9%. QDTE's average yield is 39.6%. WDTE's average yield is 31.1%. XDTE is 28.1%. So, Defiance is still paying a higher yield overall than the, Roundhill, which, that's no surprise. IWMY 51.5% average yield. RDTE with an average yield of 37.9%. Up next is YMAX with a 55.07% average yield and YMAG 44.99% average yield. YBIT with an average yield of 72%, which is a little ridiculous, and then YBTC average yield of 55%. So pretty good numbers. All the average yields are actually pretty amazing. The only one in the 20s is XDTE, but it's still the high 20s. Now, as far as total NAV, QQQY is showing flat, 0%. QDTE showing an 8.1% appreciation. WDTE 2.6% appreciation. XDTE 5.6% appreciation. IWMY 3% appreciation. RDTE 5.8% appreciation. YMAX showing, YMAX and YMAG both 13% appreciation. Then YBIT 34%. And then YBTC 38%. So, yeah. So that's the numbers. That's the dry series. Again, I know I'm reading off numbers, but you have to always keep in mind, people listen to my channel when they're running, when they're working out, when they're in the car driving to work. So you have to always keep that in mind. I know if you're watching the video, you're like, hey, why are you reading this to me? You're wasting time. But a lot of people do just listen. So, keep that in mind when you're watching these videos. All right, so that's the update on the dry series. Are there any surprises here this week? To me, I guess IWMY was kind of the surprise. Very good week. They went up in price 1.74%, a pretty solid week. But again, can they keep it up? All things, things have to work out right in their favor. But we'll see. Again, we'll see how things go. But there's so many funds out now. There's so many funds available that it's really just hard to keep track. And I know this dry series, it's eventually probably going to expand using, looking at other funds, comparing other funds. So it may make sense to do that. Or maybe just create a separate series of comparing other funds. I don't know. We'll have to think about it. But for now, this is what it is. Again, if I add other funds, it kind of messes with the dry, right? Unless it's Defiance, Roundhill, and YieldMax. If it's another company, then obviously I can't use dry, right? So you have to keep that in mind. It's a beautiful acronym for this series. All right. Anyway, guys, as always, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. This video is for fun and entertainment. So hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you're entertained. If not, we will try again next week. If you enjoy this content, please hit the like button. If you have any questions or concerns, leave them down in the comments below. Outside of that, I pretty much got nothing. Again, just let me know if how you're liking this series. Do you need anything additional? Do you need anything less? Or is it just right? I'm hoping it's just right? Because changes, work. No, but anyway, seriously, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great day. All right, take care and later.